again, and welcome inside. This is the navigation station. It houses many important functions on this boat. In times past, this is where the navigation work on charts would be done. Today, we don't use paper charts very often. The first thing...
Ho, ho, ho. Hold on. Hold your seahorses. I'll take over from here.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Maya. I think that she brings up a good point about paper charts and chart plotting. So, obviously, when we leave one spot and we're going to another, we need to know where we're going and what hazards might be in the way. We just don't use paper charts anymore because they aren't updated very frequently and they're difficult to work with. Of course, if you're using electronics and relying on that, the potential for failure is there, and that's a real risk. Now, how do you offset that risk? Well, we do so through redundancy. So we have two iPads that are set up as full navigation backups. They have all the software necessary, and they can link up to GPS in order to chart a plot all the way around the world with just an iPad if we wanted to. Redundancy runs through a lot of what these systems are about, because the risk of failure and the frequency of failure is pretty common. So, for example, another important function that we need to know is getting weather. We need to know what the weather is before we set off, and whether oftentimes it'll mean that we don't set off if the weather's foul. We have 5 ways of getting weather here on the boat. First would be our SSB. Maya, do you want to point that out? So an SSB is very much like a ham radio. It is a ham radio. You've probably driven down the road before and seen big antennas by somebody's house. This is our ham radio. We have an antenna that starts at the hull and goes up partway up the mast. It's about 55 feet tall, and that functions as our big antenna. Every morning and every afternoon there's weather that is broadcast out across that SSB. However, that doesn't mean that it's not foolproof. Oftentimes there can be atmospheric conditions that interfere with our reception of those broadcasts. Most of the broadcasts we listen to come out of Florida, and we're currently in Panama, so that's quite a distance. So another backup that we have is cellular. So we can use, not that, actually just a cell phone. We can use cell phones as Wi-Fi hotspots, and when we're someplace that we're going to be for a while, we'll pick up a data card, so that we can use data off the cellular network. Another way that we get weather is VHF. Oftentimes weather is broadcast via VHF. Maya mentioned before that we have redundant VHFs. Again, very critical. We have one, why don't you point up the fixed VHF, hon? So what Maya began speaking on initially was the fixed VHF. That's a more powerful VHF. The antenna is on the top of the mast, and it's about 25 watts. That'll reach 10 or 15 miles. Then we have 3 handhelds, and those can be used as backups. In addition, one of them functions as a GPS in the event that we lose GPS through the chart plotter, and the 2 backup iPads, we can rely on this VHF radio. It also functions as a backup compass. All right. In the event that we can't get weather on any of those first 3 options, then we can rely on our satellite uplinks. Maya, why don't you pull out the Iridium? So the Iridium is one set of satellite networks. This functions as a Wi-Fi hotspot. So it pulls the satellite signal down and then broadcasts it out via Wi-Fi to our iPads, our computers, and our phone also. So we can both get weather, we can also communicate, we can also broadcast out our location by transmitting the GPS coordinates to various emails that we set up in advance. Go ahead and grab the Global Star. So while that's the Iridium network, we also have a satellite phone that functions off of the Global Star network. The phone is a bit better. It's a higher quality phone communication because the satellites are lower Earth orbit as opposed to the Iridium network, which is a higher Earth orbit. Okay. I'm going to pause here for a minute. Apparently it started to rain, and so I've got to close some windows. I'll be back in a minute.
Dad, close my window.
All right, I'm back. We're all buttoned up. So the 5th way that we can gather weather is through a Wi-Fi extender that we have outside. If there's Wi-Fi ashore, then we are able to use that extender up to about 2 miles to pull in the internet, and of course we can access all sorts of weather via that way. You know, it actually occurs to me that there's also a sixth way. We don't use it very often, but it's a professional routing system, or people, meteorologists, up in Nashua, New Hampshire. The service is called Commander's Weather. It's truly top-notch, and it is a fee-based, so it generally costs us $35 to $45 per trip. But, you know, it's professional, it's top-notch, and if we're going on a voyage that extends beyond, say, 48 hours, we'll often place a call to them and get the forecast. So they'll provide us guidance on the route to take, when to leave, and then as we're going throughout our trip, whether we need to know about any weather occurrences that are headed our way. All right, let's talk about some of the other stuff, some of the other electronics here in the navigation station. In the middle, the large panel, that's a 12-volt panel, so that controls all of our DC functions, DC electricity that is. Things such as turning on our refrigerator, our freezer, running our navigation, or turning on our navigation lights and our anchor lights, and our propane solenoid for the ovens. Now, in terms of 12 volt, we also have AC, or 110. That's what these two panels control. So we have an inverter charger, and what that does is it converts about 3,000 watts of electricity to AC power. So just like at home, if you want to plug something in, you can do that. We just turn on the inverter, and voila, the various plugs work around the boat. Okay. On the right wall here, we have 3 controls for our AC, heat, and dehumidifier units. Okay, now in order to run those, we would need to turn on our generator. Why don't you point out the generator, the genset controls, honey? Okay, so that we would turn that on, and then we'd be able to use the various HVAC controls. Other things you'll see here are some lights. So we've got a dinghy light. Why don't you pull that out, Maya? That's an all-around white light that you can use for the dinghy. Okay, we also have our spotlight. So in the event that you're coming into a strange anchorage at night, or you know, you need to see something outside in the middle of the night that's important, or you want to spot another boat, you can do all of those things with that light. We also carry many small flashlights and headlamps and all of that. Over on the left, this here monitors our battery bank, so we can see what state of charge it's in, inflows, outflows, power consumption history, and several different other types of functions. All right.
The radio.
Oh, yes.
Very important.
To rock your tunes?
Rock my tunes.
Where's this?
He knows me.
Aha.
That's the radio.
I think they've seen those before.
And the iPod.
Yes, your iPod. All right, so have we forgotten anything here, Maya? I don't think so. I think that about covers it. Well, actually, there is one other thing. That antenna off to the left there, next to the VHF radio, that takes the signal from the chart plotter, and it actually can broadcast it via Wi-Fi out to any of the iPads. So if we want, say we're at an anchorage, we're concerned about the holding of our anchor, we can go to bed with an iPod, and we can, or with an iPad, and we can watch the chart plotter up above with an anchor alarm, and if we start dragging it all, that will alert us, and then we can come out. Fortunately, we have never dragged our anchor, and I hope never to drag our anchor. Anyway, let's move on to the other parts of the boat.
Goodbye now.
Hey Maya, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm just filling up the celery jar. It makes them last longer. Would you like a tour of the saloon? I promised you one earlier. Let's start with the big things, like this. This is our freezer/refrigerator. It's a 500-liter and more than we need. That's why we have our Dometic standalone freezer outside. You want ice? We have a Dometic ice maker too. Our standalone refrigerator is underneath this counter. We have plenty of storage everywhere we walk around this galley. We have an oven, a microwave, a double-up sink, and a dish dryer rack. We have also this is our soda stream. The soda stream basically makes fizzy water. Don't put mixed drinks in there or it'll explode. It wasn't pretty. You won't believe what the former owners left us. The big screen, flat screen TV. He installed subwoofers with it and surround sound. He was a big football fan after all. But this is where we often entertain most of the kids because of the screen. We can put down this table and put a cushion on top of it, so we can comfortably fit 11 kids. We already have, but we haven't packed it to the max. When the table's also down, Mommy, Tyler, and I sleep on it underway. And also, we have a Wii console. Oops! I wasn't supposed to say that. Now, I'll show you downstairs. Oh, actually, one other thing. This is our E-per. When our boat's on fire or sinking, we use that yellow raft like I was talking about, and we use the E-per. We take the E-per and we can turn it on anywhere in the world, and it will signal the Coast Guard, and they will come and help us if we're stranded. Let's go downstairs. This room, if we turn to the left, is Tyler's. Down here, he has, his fishing stuff. And this is, what, 1/10 of the stuff? Ugh, ridiculous. So, here he has a cushion and steps going up to the bed. It is a queen-sized bed. So, if we had kids come over, they would stay in these beds with us.
What about closets?
Well, let's see here. We got one behind the door here. I'll just open up so you can see where the door is. We have one here. It's actually double storage over here. But Tyler uses that for Legos, so everything is stuffed in here. He has shelves by his pillows, which are stuffed with Legos and fishing rods and fishing stuff. He's got a fan to cool him at night and an overhead hatch that I showed you when he went peekaboo! Ugh. That's my room. This one is my room. Inside here, I have a side step up to my bed. I have a queen-size bed just like Tyler's. This is my desktop school area to work in my bedroom. I have 2 shelves here meant for my underclothes and then my actual hanging closet. Up here is our large storage. The other hall has one too in the front bedroom. The storage goes all the way to the tip of the boat. We have shelves at the foot of my bed instead of where my pillows go. Connected to my bedroom is my head, or my bathroom, as we call it. It's not very big, so don't get jealous about having a connected bathroom. I didn't show you Tyler's because there's only so many bathrooms you should see and only so many you want to see on this boat. I don't want to take up your time by showing you the other hull. It's just the exact same layout of this hull that you've already seen. Well, this concludes